So yeah, no, this thing, Alba System Dogmatikalamity, obviously is the newest toy for branded. Really how I describe it. And I covered this card essentially when it first came out, but I know not everyone has seen that content. But essentially the card is branded's final boss monster in the original line of support. So you would think it would be pretty good, and you know, I'm not saying it's a useless card, but I think that it might be a little bit overrated for, you know, what it could be. So it's a 4500 big beat stick essentially, and it takes a fall in the Valbaz plus 6 monsters in your graveyard with different names, which, you know, I think the fact it's 6 different monsters with different names is not too bad of a summoning condition. It's definitely like, it's 100% possible on a grass mill, and if you do if you do any 2-card combos, especially your 3-card combos, you'll definitely get there with 6 monsters in grave, but that's also definitely a steep requirement. However, you know, it first must be fusion summon, and then it can attack all your opponent's monsters once each. So at 4500, that's actually theoretically not terrible. And then it cannot declare an attack unless you send 1 card from your extra deck to the graveyard, which I don't personally like for branded, because it is not necessarily like, you know, you want to save a lot of those extra deck cards for your grind game or mirror jid. So I'm not a big fan of it, and then it's not of that effect. And then, but it's not bad because, you know, if you have to make this thing first, obviously you could just send the Albion and then you could keep playing. But if you're already spinning back your resources, you know, I'm kind of dubious on like an Albion set with this to be that good, because you're not going to have the graveyard resources to make that, so you're probably sending a Titanclad. But it's not terrible. Once per turn, if you control this fusion summon card, you have 6 or more fusion monsters in your graveyard with different names that mention Fallen of Albaz as material. You can send all cards in each player's extra deck to the graveyard. So this card's also theoretically in FTK, because if you hit this condition, you can send your whole opponent's extra deck to the graveyard. And unless it's like Fiendsmith or like branded, there isn't going to be really anything they can do about it. Even then, Fiendsmith won't be able to. It's like, okay. So yeah, this thing is definitely utility based. Like, I don't think it's going to be the card that everybody runs in branded. Definitely not, because, you know, if you're the utility, there's really 2 trenches of utility with this kind of card. And the first is it requires 6 monsters in your graveyard with different names. So like, you can do the thing that we were doing with Alba Lenatus, you know, because Alba Lenatus, it can be as many dragon monsters as you want. So what people used to do, or still do, is if you want to grind game really hard with branded and you want to recycle all your extra deck monsters that are relevant, you could go Alba Lenatus off of Lubellion, right? Because Lubellion spins back cards. So, and once again, the Alba Lenatus requires as many dragons as possible, so you could spin back both your Albions, your Titanclad, your or actually you can't do Sanctifier, Chaos Star Source, Slain Darkness Dragonlord, and you know what, Borreload if you're running that. So we do already have a card that's kind of like that, and this is 6. However, it is 6 monsters in your graveyard, so that means it can also get main deck monsters, which isn't horrible for the grind game. That's almost like a Pot of Desires, right? And something like a Brandon and White could, you know, easily facilitate that with Lubellion, or even just Brand White in general on its own. So I think the biggest utility though of Dogmatika System Dogmatikalamity is the fact that it's very good into the new Lunalight deck that has yet to be released in the TCG and most likely will be released in Master Duel, you know, as well in the coming months. But because the new Lunalight cards make a 4,200 towers, and they can make 2 of them on a lot of their best combos, and we play Fua, we play Perulia, and even then they could just combo through end on 2 towers. So when Lunalight comes out, I'm genuinely going to debate on running this in Towers format, When this card first came out, I'm on record as saying this is a great out for X Purely Noir. Or not X Purely Noir, just Purely Noir. If they don't get to go like full combo, basically, and make like a 7-mat. Because this thing can out, what, a 5-mat Noir, because 5-mat Noir is at 4,200 defense, so this thing can out it. Which I think is pretty good, because before we do have Titaniclad, but Titaniclad doesn't get over 4,200 very easily, right? Titaniclad is plus 100 for each level of monsters used for fusion material, and you have to use a Fallen of Albaz. So, you know, best case scenario, you're getting level 8 off a Shrouded, plus like 1,100 off a Nib, just 1,700, which is exactly 4,200, which does not out it. So I think once Lunalight comes out, I actually think we might have to run this in our extra deck so we don't just like auto lose that matchup. Unfortunately, because that deck does seem pretty competent, and I think in the TCG they haven't. They unbanned all the cards, and in Master Duel I believe they're also all unlimited. So Grass Builds is better for running this bad boy, yeah, for sure. It says Stigmata. Was the lore with this card? I'm not sure offhand. Rare Hunter, but you know the cost of declaring attack is gonna pop off. The extra death sends pay off. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I don't think the effect is that bad. I do think, like, you know, there's some times where I make Mirror Jade and I only have like 2 sends left after like turn 3 off of Mirror Jade. So like obviously you can send other cards though. It doesn't have to mention Fallen of Albaz. And the FTK effect I don't think is going to be that relevant for Branded unless you're in like a game state where you can't kill them and then you can just resolve its effect. And you already have an end board that's like not Mirror Jade essentially. Or you have like Retribution set up on the field so you can spin back 2/4 Mirror Jade Sons. I could see this thing definitely becoming actually a staple in the extra deck because of its factor of being able to out towers, which is one of Branded's hardest matchups in general. I think if Purely was more popular, because it was more popular when this card got first announced, I was actually pretty excited about it. But you know, currently Purely you'll see like once a season in Master Duel essentially. And in TCG you might not even see it at all. So, you know, I think there is new Purely support on the way. You know, the rumor is if all the trends line up with their funny releases and Easter eggs, and the OCG Purely should be getting support relatively soon in the future. So, you know, I think having this thing in the pocket actually solves one of Branded's blind spots, and a lot of people aren't considering that. And I think, you know, the more I think about it, I'm like 6 monsters in your grave with different names. That doesn't sound horrible in the sense that you get to basic, like, sometimes with Branded, you don't have a grind game with your main deck monsters. So, you know, I think it has a slightly different utility than Alba Lenatus, but they both have those kind of, you make it with Lubellion, then you can spin back a bunch of stuff, right? And I think the 4,500 nature is really nice for Branded because it's just, there's an OTK factor that does set up your graveyard. So I could, honestly, I definitely could see Branded players running this post Lunalight format. Until that happens, I don't think there's really a big point. Like even on Master Duel here, like there isn't really too many scenarios where I'm going to ever go into this, and it doesn't have a graveyard effect, unfortunately. So, you know, overall, I give this card kind of like a 5 out of 10 because it does have fair amount of utility for the Branded deck that didn't before, but at the end of the day it lacks a lot of what makes Branded engine extract cards good in the form of like their graveyard effects and then just the ease of summon of it. This is not easy to summon, right? I wish it was like maybe up to 6 monsters and then you can, that decides how many attacks it gets. I think it would be a lot better like that. But as of right now, it's going to be there for Lunalight. I can see some potential uses with it, says Carrot Patch, but considering how tight the extra deck is, I don't think it makes the cut. Maybe if we had a 20 card extra deck. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, potential for unseen uses, but I could see Brand White banishing a use Mercurier for Tragedy off of this. Quertus is better in OTK scenario than Alba Systems is Rare Hunter. I agree. I just like, I think it's for the towers. It's like 100% for the towers because we all have to admit, like, we don't have any outs for the towers. Yeah, it's definitely situational. What's up, Scott Hubs? How's it going? What's up, Magic Geek? What's up, Jarvin? I played 2 Alba System, used Tier Limits to bring back cards to extra deck. That's really cool, actually. What? Like, what? Okay, so what do you run for your Alba? Oh, yeah, no, that's kind of neat.
Oh, that's kind of cool. This could, yeah, this is a good card off of Shiren, honestly. Off of the Grass Mill. This card does make Shiren a little bit better, honestly. If you just make this for free off Shiren, fuck it, dude. Like, that sounds great. Honestly, and this does make Grass, like, a lot more, like, foul-proof on Branded's end, because, like, you don't just, like, always, like, if you mill all 3 Albaz, you'll automatically lose if you have, like, Shiren in rotation. And I do too. What we cutting for this, though? I mean, it's probably Quertus or like Despian or something. I don't know. It's really gonna be like the 15th slot, like whatever your 15th slot is. I think everyone's extra deck is a little bit, you know, different. I could tell you guys what I'm gonna cut, but yeah, I wish it just had some like utility for high spirits too, like Magic Geek said.
So yeah, this card I'm gonna probably buy, but I'm not in a Russian Master Duel, and I don't think you guys should be either. I don't think you guys should be in like TLDR. I don't think anyone should be in a rush to put this in their branded deck, but you know, it's a tool in our toolbox, or a right, like it just makes the branded deck building a lot more diverse. Honestly, that's what I like about it. I don't think it's useless, but for the most part, I think for 90% of branded players is currently going to be not great. But you know, we'll revisit it post Duelist Alliance or Duelist Advent or whatever the hell it's called.